Welcome! You're listening to Making Relationships Work. We're a company focused on women and their marriage. We lead and teach women just like you how to grow into and access, whenever you need to, your wise woman's self. The part of you who is deeply connected to your purpose, your innate wisdom, and your husband and family. We teach women in marriages how to rebuild trust and connection, to work through conflicts, no matter how deep, no matter how painful, and to lead your marriage to a place where the two of you experience marriage mastery. This podcast is about learning the systems and techniques that truly work to reconnect you back into your marriage so that you can experience the freedom that comes with a masterful marriage. Since this podcast is totally free, if you're getting tons of value and you want to support us and make sure that you get more of this good stuff, subscribe below and rate and review our podcast today. Now, on to the show. Hello, Women Making Marriages Work. Hello, Making Relationships Work podcast and YouTube. I'm delighted to be back here to talk with you tonight about another reader question. So in my women-only, closed and private Facebook group called Women Making Marriages Work, I ask women what they want me to talk about. And tonight's question has come to you from a beautiful woman called Yvette, who has a question about her husband. She says, how do I deal with a husband who's living in denial of everything that hurts, that doesn't work, and that doesn't serve? It's a simple question, isn't it? But I know that many of you can relate. And really, that's probably why you're here. Because when you have a husband who isn't in denial, who is open to talking about the things that hurt, who is able to name what his feelings are and notice where you are, empathize, and show up in that space, you're probably not going to be in a group like this. That is more the marriage mastery end, where you've got that deep emotional connection, where the two of you have an us against the world experience, where he is, if you're upset, then he has a sense that he is aware of where you are and is looking to support you in a way that is appropriate and comfortable for both of you. And if you're in a space where you have a husband who's in denial, who is in denial of everything that's hurting him or even her or perhaps their family, in denial of things that aren't working, and in denial of things that aren't serving him or his wife or his family, then you're really in a different space, aren't you? So let's unpack this tonight. Let's talk about what this is. Let's talk about denial first. Let's define our definition. Let's operationalize our terms. So when a person is in denial, what do you think is happening? Denial is used as a coping mechanism, isn't it? It's one of those things we do when we don't want to know about how bad something is. We use it to put our head in the sand. We use it to pretend that everything is okay. We use it consciously and we use it unconsciously. So for many people who use denial as a coping mechanism, because that's what it is, a coping mechanism, we use it as a way to say, if I don't pay attention over here, then nothing is wrong. Everything is okay. And using denial is something that we learn how to do. So we learn it from our family of origin, or we learn it from people who tried to teach us along our life's path, or we learn it through trial and error because of the environments we've been in, or the role models we've had. And so it's a coping mechanism. So if you are a vet and you're listening to this, the very first thing to know is that if you have a husband, or if you're a wife who's listening to this and seeing that you are yourself in denial, if you have a husband who is living in denial, that means at some level, he completely and utterly understands that not all is well. Does that make sense? Denial is a coping mechanism, and it would only be invoked if he needed to cope. Does that make sense? So if you're coping with something, that means on some level, you are aware that you are doing what you're doing. Now, I say at some level because I have the idea of consciousness and unconsciousness. Now, remember, our brains are very clever, my friends. Our brains are super duper clever, and their jobs are to keep us safe and to protect us. So one of the things our brains do is to move pertinent information out of our range of kind of thoughtfulness, our consciousness. And remember, the front part of our brain, the executive functioning, is the part of the brain that moves ideas around. And if it can't get access to those ideas, then it doesn't work them through. And so you and I both know that if you're coping with something that's not working through avoidance, which is denial essentially, you're avoiding looking at it, you're avoiding growing into what is required of you to be successful in working it through, you're actively saying, there's nothing here to look at. Now, remember in elementary school, you would have been exposed to an idea where the more that someone tells you not to think about something, the more you think about things. And I think for me, it was used in a game kind of scenario. But it was the idea, don't think about a carrot, don't think about a carrot, don't think about a carrot. And then, of course, all you can see in your mind's eye is a carrot. That's the problem with denial. So even when it's unconscious and your brain is moving that away, there's still a shadow, there's still an imprint that is accessible to your consciousness. And denial then has to step it up a notch. So instead of avoiding it, which is the first part of denial, then we have to make it go away, which is, this is your fault. This isn't anything here. There's only something here if you make them be something here. I'm happy. What's your problem? What's wrong with you if you're not happy? Our children are fine. They're just teenagers. They're just, testing boundaries. They're doing this, they're doing that. There wouldn't be a problem if you didn't make a problem. That's where denial lives. It's about saying, there's nothing here to see, so go away. So denial is partly avoidance and partly push away, resistance, yeah? And so let's think about why we resist. We resist something because we don't feel brave enough to do anything different. And we know on some level, again, consciously or unconsciously, that we have to grow a new skill set to deal with whatever this situation is here. And we feel on some level that we can't do that, or it's too hard, or it will hurt a bit. And humans are pretty pain averse. And so you get stuck people. And over time, and remember, marriages take about 6 years to get to crisis. Over time of not doing what's needed, not growing into who's required, not becoming the person you're meant to become, not being able to lead and talk about hard things, not being able to connect in with other people going through a hard time, not being able to be the lighthouse, be the leader, be the connected, loving father, husband, man. What starts to happen is we start to break the connection. And as that connection breaks, resentment, residual distrust, residual feelings of lower commitment, residual feelings of lack of safety, residual feelings of being unheard, unappreciated, unseen, unnoticed, start to build. And when you get to a certain period, the two of you, which used to be like this, are now like this. And you have a husband who says, there's nothing to see here. This is nothing to do with me. I'm fine. What's your problem? Why do you make it like this? Why is this so hard? Other marriages don't have to be this hard. Why can't we just be happy? We've got a really good life. The children are fine. All of those things that move away what the problem is resistance. And what happens to a marriage that has resistance in it for a really long time? They're two things. The first thing that happens is separation and divorce. The second thing that happens is unhappy people living parallel lives. Either way, you're doing both of you a disservice, because neither one of you gets to claim and have a wonderful life. And you're doing your children a disservice because they don't get to see and have modeled for them what a healthy, loving, masterful, wonderful marriage looks like, feels like. And so here's the thing. You don't live in a space of authenticity where you can have big feelings and have them be met by someone who knows what to do with them, who can talk it through, who can love you no matter what, who doesn't use denial or resistance essentially to make you stop so that he doesn't have to grow. That's the stuff that doesn't work. And I want you to hear this really loud and clear. In Yvette's example, we're talking about a husband. I love husbands. I think husbands are wonderful people who sometimes get a bit stuck. But do you know who else gets stuck? Wives. And so very often, women are the people who are living in denial, who are denying the level of problem that they've got, and who are blaming their husbands for what they will take responsibility for, which is nothing really when they blame their husbands. And so I don't want you to feel like this is me saying that Yvette or her husband or any husbands are the problem. I'm simply talking about a question which has a male attached to it. But hear this, either of you or both of you could easily be stuck in this question, easily stuck in a marriage where you can't live happily, where you don't get to experience big feelings and have them honored or allowed in a home, where you're not able to talk things through, where safety and commitment to talk about this stuff is low, where anyone else in the family who has a problem is swept under the carpet, because that's what denial is. It's a great big bump under the carpet that everybody tries to walk around, and every now and then you run into it and there's a big explosion and you get told that you did it wrong and you get told that you did it wrong and everybody's doing it wrong, and then it all settles back down, swept back under the carpet, and we move around that bump until we run into it again. And of course, this isn't going to work in a marriage. So if you've got bumps in your carpet, which most couples do, and they're getting bigger, I want you to stop avoiding it. I want you to stop denying that there's a problem. I want you to stop justifying why your family does it this way. And I want you to be the change that you want to see. Because Yvette, your beautiful husband is unlikely to do something different here. And Yvette, I don't mean to single you out that way. I really don't. I really mean to say that anybody who is living in denial, who is avoiding doing the work that is required of you because you were born as a human, is a problem. Because eventually change is going to catch up with you, my friends. And what tends to happen is that it's the change that you don't want. It's the change of separating. It's the change of 2 family Christmases and your kids have to go between the 2 homes. It's the change of someone in the relationship partnering up with somebody else. When the 2 of you, when you remember who you were at the beginning of that relationship, at the beginning of that marriage, were so beautifully suited to one another. It's not that you're not beautifully suited now. It's that your commitment to doing your own developmental work, to growing those new skills, to being able to talk through hard things, to know that all of that is just skill-based training, process-based training, where you get to grow into who you're supposed to be. When the 2 of you are able to grow into who you're supposed to be, this isn't a problem. Your job as a husband and wife is to grow together, where one person says, I've learned this thing, and the other one says, oh, that's cool. And then this one says, I learned this thing, and this one says, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Gosh, aren't you doing well? And together you grow in life. The 2 of you are mirrors for each other. So if you've got one person living in denial, you've got somebody right there trying to show that person where they are. But for some reason, it's not landing. The 2 of you have broken the contract. And the contract is you're supposed to be growing together for the course of your lives. And you're supposed to be having a wonderful life most of the time. These are the things that masterful couples know. These are the things that I know that you can learn. But here's what you need to do. First of all, we need to decide that this is enough is enough. That you have been married for 15 years and you've got 30 to go or more, hopefully. And you want it to be better. You want it to be growth orientated. You want it to be a place of safety and love and compassion and connection. You want it to be a place where you two have this sense of us against the world, where you've got your arms around each other. And baby, if you've got a problem, then I'm right here because we got a problem. And I want you to know what it's like to celebrate Christmases and Thanksgiving and all those kinds of holidays in a space of coupleness. where the two of you are joyfully experiencing these times together and showing your kids what a happy family authentically and deeply is. Because accessing deep, authentic happiness when you're living in denial or blame or justification or avoidance or resentment or criticism or fear, it's very hard to access those states of happiness from those places of pain. And so what do your kids see? What's your percentage? Is it 70-30? Is it 60-40? Is it 20-80? Whereabouts are you living in your happiness space where the two of you are connected, in love, supported, happy, growing families? The two of you are making this family. This is what I want for you. And what I really know for sure is that you can both have this, but you have to make a decision to interrupt the trajectory of where you're going. Because without interrupting that trajectory, nothing is going to change. So Yvette's husband is not going to do something different magically. He's very unlikely to have an epiphany and to be able to then know how to grow. It's one thing to kind of see yourself, and it's another thing to know, how do I actually do this differently in multiple spaces and levels in my life? And that's where I come in. So if you are a woman who knows that this is true for you and your family, and you're ready to give yourself the gift of freedom, the gift of happiness, the gift of marriage mastery, of connection, of children with a family that truly feels authentically loving and happy most of the time, I want to hear from you. I want you to watch my masterclass. I want you to book a call with our team, and I want to get you started on that road to connected, beautiful, loving marriage. I want to show you how to repair all of the reasons why it's got to where it's got to, where you can't talk about the things that hurt, you can't talk about the things that aren't working, and you can't talk about the things that aren't serving you because you've tried so many times and it's failed so many times, and now it's an off-limits conversation. I'm going to show you how to undo that. I'm going to show you how to rewrite your history so that you get a sense of working that through and being able to put those suitcases of pain down and to literally create the marriage that you've dreamt of. Having learned the hard way all the things that don't work, I'm going to show you all the things that do work. All right, so watch the masterclass because there's some good skill-based stuff in there. Then you can book a call with me. All right, my loves, we're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving. We're getting closer and closer to Christmas. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful holiday period. And if you're nervous about it, book a call. Let's not give you one last terrible Christmas before you call me in January. Call me now. Let's get started, my friends. All right, my darlings, time for me to go. Much love to you. Remember, you can turn this around. You just have to start. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, sweethearts. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you're feeling fired up and you're ready to grow and you want to know more about how to do that, here is what I want you to do now. I want you to watch my marriage masterclass. This masterclass will show you how my clients have turned their struggling marriages into thriving marriages, even without their husband's buy-in. How my clients have gone from cycles of poor communication, disconnect and loneliness to being teammates and soulmates with their husbands again, even after they've already tried everything. And the proven system my clients use to start transforming their marriages in minutes, not years, because life is too precious to waste one more minute in an unhappy and unfulfilling marriage. So if this is what you're looking for, I want you to click the link below and take a look at my